We are counting down the 10 American cities people are fleeing faster than anywhere else. This is not just about bad weather. Think skyrocketing costs, collapsing systems, and communities unraveling so quickly that even cash handouts cannot persuade residents to stay. From tax nightmares to climate catastrophes, each city on this list ranks for a different reason, but all share one thing: staying is starting to feel impossible. Could you survive a place where escape becomes the only option? Let us begin with number 10. Honolulu's beaches may look like paradise, but for many locals, the price tag is pure nightmare. The median home price on Oahu now sits above $1 million, and a 2-bedroom rental can easily top $2,500 a month. Groceries and gas do not offer any relief. Expect to pay $8 for a gallon of milk, $6 for a gallon of gas, and $25 for a poke bowl that is smaller than your patience. Even everyday life feels squeezed, with a Reddit user quipping, "Living here feels like winning the lottery," then taxed at 110%. In 2023 alone, more than 10,000 residents packed up and left Hawaii for the mainland, most often landing in Las Vegas. For families who have called these islands home for generations, the choice is brutal: stay and juggle 3 jobs, or leave paradise behind for a shot at affordability. Jersey City residents know the feeling of running fast just to stay in place. Property taxes here have climbed to an effective rate of about 2.8%, among the highest in the country. For a household earning $250,000, the combined hit from property, state, and local income taxes can swallow up nearly 18% of their income before factoring in sales taxes or fees. That means a 6-figure salary often feels like a mirage once the tax bill lands. Hudson County tax tables and household simulations paint a clear picture. Even high earners struggle to get ahead. The city's net outflow keeps growing as people tire of paying luxury prices for crumbling roads and delayed public projects. DMV lines, infamous for their length, have become a running joke. Bring a sleeping bag and maybe a novel. Here, taxes do not just sting, they chase people out. Bridgeport families watched their neighborhood school close for good in 2022. One of several schools shuttered as the city scrambled to balance its budget. Children now ride buses across town, while parents juggle new routines and longer commutes. At the public library, weekday hours have been slashed by nearly a third since 2019, leaving students and job seekers locked out after 5 in the evening. Potholes linger for months as deferred road repairs pile up on city council agendas. For many residents, the promise of moderate living costs has faded into frustration. Property taxes keep climbing, but the services that make a city livable seem to vanish year by year. Bridgeport's population has started to slip as families quietly pack up, searching for places where their tax dollars still buy a working streetlight, an open library, and a school within walking distance. St. Louis once stood as the beating heart of the Midwest, with nearly 850,000 people calling the city home at its 1950 peak. Today, that number has plummeted to just over 269,000, a staggering loss of almost 2/3 of its residents. Entire blocks now sit silent, windows boarded, and grass reclaiming empty lots where families once gathered. In some neighborhoods, more than 1 in 5 homes are vacant, leaving behind a checkerboard of abandonment. The loss is not just in numbers, it is in the hollowed-out schools, shuttered corner stores, and the long stretch of streets where the only movement is the wind. Census graphs trace a steady downward slope, each decade bleeding away more neighbors, more memories, until the city feels less like a metropolis and more like a memory, echoing with what used to be. Cleveland's population decline has gone from a slow leak to an open flood. Once home to over 900,000 people, the city now counts just 356,000 residents, and the pace of departure is only picking up. Since 2020, Cleveland has seen another 4.1% of its people leave, a sharper drop than almost anywhere else in the country. Census updates reveal a city losing not just numbers, but momentum and hope. Factories that once anchored neighborhoods now stand silent, and the jobs that fueled the city's rise have vanished or moved away. For many families, the decision is not about nostalgia, it is about survival. When schools close, storefronts go empty, and the promise of a better future fades. Packing up becomes less about leaving home and more about chasing the chance to build one somewhere else. Detroit's skyline still hints at its Motor City glory, but the reality on the ground is survival mode. The city's population, once 1.85 million strong, now hovers below 650,000, a loss of more than 65% since 1950. In 2013, Detroit became the largest city in the United States to declare bankruptcy. The fallout was immediate. Entire neighborhoods went dark as streetlights shut off, trash collection stopped, and emergency response times stretched into hours. Residents like John George rallied, forming groups to board up abandoned homes and haul garbage out themselves. Locals joked, "You could own a city block for the price of a used car," but they warned, just don't expect streetlights or working fire hydrants. For thousands, the choice was not between good and bad, it was between staying in a city where basic services vanished overnight, or leaving in search of safety and hope. Chicago's skyline still glitters, but the numbers behind those towers are enough to make even the most loyal resident reach for a moving box. In Cook County, the average homeowner pays property taxes at 2.27% of their home's value, one of the steepest rates in the country. For many, that means shelling out over $9,000 a year just for the privilege of keeping a roof overhead. It's not just the taxes though. Illinois faces a pension shortfall closing in on $140 billion, a hole so deep it drags city budgets down with it. Schools close, library hours shrink, and every year the bills creep higher, chasing families and businesses across state lines. In Chicago, your wallet isn't just lighter, it's practically on a diet. Even the deep dish pizza can't weigh it down. Miami's streets now flood on sunny days, and it is not just a quirk of the tropics. Since 1990, the number of tidal flooding days has jumped by 400%, according to NOAA. Billion-dollar condos and pastel mansions sit just a few feet above the rising Atlantic, with coastal property worth hundreds of billions now at risk. Homeowners who once bragged about ocean views now face insurance bills that can double in a single year, or worse, find their coverage dropped entirely. Some of the city's wealthiest zip codes are seeing residents quietly pack up, joining a new wave of so-called climate refugees. It is not just the threat of a major hurricane, it is the relentless creep of water, the endless battle with pumps and sandbags, and the realization that money cannot outswim the sea. In Miami, the future feels less like a promise and more like a warning. New Orleans has always lived with water, but lately it is insurance companies that are flooding out. After Hurricane Katrina, more than 31,000 residents left behind battered homes and broken neighborhoods. Each new storm since has brought another round of gutting and rebuilding. But in 2023, the real blow came when 3 major insurers pulled out of Louisiana altogether. Without coverage, homeowners face mortgages they cannot insure and repairs they cannot afford. Some families have filed claims 3, 4, even 5 times until the payout stopped coming and the risk became too much for companies to bear. The city's culture still pulses in every brass band and backyard boil, but the math just does not add up anymore. When even the safety net disappears, staying is no longer a choice. For many, the only way to rebuild is to start over somewhere else. Anchorage sits at the top of the list for a reason. Groceries, gas, and heating can cost 30 to 50% more than the US average, and almost everything has to be shipped in or flown up from thousands of miles away. In October 2023, every Alaskan received $1,312 as an oil dividend, but that check barely dents those bills. Winters routinely dip below zero, sometimes they plunge to -40, and daylight can vanish for weeks. Young people keep leaving for the lower 48, chasing jobs and sunlight. Even the mosquitoes seem to charge rent. The beauty is undeniable, but survival here costs more than money. Across all 10 cities, one pattern stands out. When the basics of stability, affordable living, safe infrastructure, and opportunity break down, even the most loyal residents will leave. American cities are not just losing population, they are losing trust. Where survival outweighs roots, no incentive is enough to stay. What would you do?